It's really not about her, guys. It's about what she represents.
Caitlin Clark is being fouled at a wrecking race, and a lot of the refs are looking the other way.
She didn't ask for this war. She asked to hoop. But the second Caitlin Clark walked into the W, the game got louder, rougher, and way more personal. Overnight, she went from rookie to lightning rod. The hits piled up. The whistles didn't. And the conversation stopped being only about basketball. It turned into something bigger. Attention, ego, politics, money, even race. If you felt like the temperature jumped every night she played, you're not wrong. This is the story of how one player became the center of gravity for an entire league, and why so many people are angry about how she's been treated. From day one, the reaction was crazy. Packed arenas, road games that looked like home games, lines outside the building, social feeds drowning in number 22 jerseys, broadcasters who never used to lead with women's hoops suddenly opening A blocks with fever highlights. You could feel the shift even if you didn't care about the WNBA a month earlier. The league didn't just get new viewers, it got new habits. People started planning nights around a rookie. Ticket prices moved. Team shops moved. Newsrooms moved. That doesn't happen because someone is pretty good. It happens because a player is a moment. But the bigger the moment, the bigger the pushback. The old guard isn't dumb. They know what she represents. A tidal wave of attention that didn't come for them the same way, even after years of grinding, winning, and holding the league up when nobody else would. Some fans and players said the quiet part out loud. Race plays into who gets spotlighted in America. Others said it's not about race at all. It's about hype, marketing, and the machine that latched onto Caitlin the second she stepped on a pro court. Either way, the debate wasn't happening in a classroom. It was happening in the paint. You could see it in the bump at half court that turned into a body check, in the closeout that slid under her feet, in the hand fights that became elbows when the ref's angle changed. The camera doesn't lie. The clips were everywhere. One possession, 2 hits. Next possession, a third. Then a shove after the whistle to set the tone. Fans argued about what's just physical basketball, but nobody argues when a shoulder meets a rib cage midair. That's not a welcome to the league. That's a warning shot. And here's where the frustration boiled. The whistles felt late or missing. Night after night, people slowed the video down to frame by frame, pointing to grabs on the hip, swipes across the face, hard contact on drives that would be automatic in other leagues for other stars. Not every ref crew is the same, but the pattern looked real, especially when viral plays ended with the star player on the floor and the scoreboard saying, "Play on." Even players who aren't teammates noticed and said it. Even her own teammate said it bluntly. The star of the league wasn't being protected. That's the kind of sentence you don't say unless you're at a breaking point. The numbers didn't calm anyone down either. Analysts started pulling foul data, and that's when people really lost it. They said a shocking chunk of the league's flagrant or unnecessary and excessive contact involved one rookie. One player taking hits at a rate way above her peers. More than double the next name on the list, depending on the sample and the stretch you picked. Now, maybe it's because she always has the ball, or because rookies don't get calls. But when the math tilts that far, folks stop talking about hustle and start talking about targeting. Targeting is not just a sports word, it's a legal word. That's where this stretched into something bigger. Commentators, columnists, and even some politicians started using phrases like hostile environment. They compared it to workplace standards, not just rulebook. If the best-known employee in your company kept getting singled out for rough treatment while management shrugged, what would HR say? What would a lawyer say? Even if you think that's dramatic, you get why it landed. Sports have always lived at the edge between tough and dangerous. But when the edge feels one-sided, people ask why. There's another layer that made this stick: the spotlight. Caitlin didn't just bring eyes to herself. She brought eyes to everybody. TV partners want stars who keep casual fans through commercials. Sponsors want faces that sell the league, not just a team. Owners want the seats filled whether it's a Tuesday or a rivalry game. If the most marketable player in your product is consistently getting hammered and the cameras catch it, you have a brand problem. And brand problems become money problems fast. Then came the part nobody wanted: the injury stretch. No timetable. We're being careful. We want her long-term healthy. That's what teams say, and they're right to say it. You can't sprint on a bad groin. You can't grind through a leg that isn't ready because the league needs you. But when a long absence hits the same year you watch a dozen clips of punishing hits, the narrative writes itself. People connected it even if the team didn't. Suddenly, the hottest name in the league became a daily question. Is she playing? If the answer was no, you could feel the viewership dip before the opening tip. That's when the Olympic snub landed like a brick through the window. Lack of experience. We build chemistry. We choose what fits the system. You've heard all those lines before. Sometimes they're fair. Sometimes they're fig leaves. In this case, it hit like a final slap. You bring more eyeballs to the sport than anyone and still don't make the roster? Fans took it personally. It wasn't just about medals. It was about respect. People circled back to the same question: who gets protected, who gets pushed, and who gets quietly boxed out when decisions get made behind closed doors. Through all of it, Caitlin didn't go around begging for sympathy. She didn't deliver long press conferences blaming other players or calling refs names. She kept it short. She said opponents get away with things against her that they wouldn't try with others. That line stuck.
Short, clean.
True to what everyone's been watching. It's not a complaint, it's a diagnosis. And once you hear it in her voice, you start hearing it in every replay when her arm gets hooked and the whistle stays quiet. So what's actually driving this? Jealousy, race, the hype train, or simply a rookie learning how hard the W is? The honest answer is messy. It's pieces of everything. The league finally got a mainstream star who moves ratings the way a megastar does in men's sports, and the league has veterans who've earned every ounce of respect long before any camera found them. Those two facts can live side by side, but they can also collide. When they collide without smart leadership, you get bad optics, worse injuries, and fan wars that drown out the basketball. Here's the cold part. If you want the WNBA to grow, you can't pretend the fan base didn't show up for a person. Sports are built on faces. People watch for heroes, villains, and storylines, not just box scores. That's not unfair. That's human. And when your most magnetic face gets battered without consistent protection, it makes casual fans ask, why should I invest? If you want them to stay, you have to be transparent. You have to call it the same night after night, team after team, rookie or vet. You have to show that stars, any stars, will be protected because the game matters. But protection can't be a one-way street either. If you're a veteran who sees a rookie get crowned on day one, it's easy to feel overlooked. It's easy to let a little extra shoulder slip in. That's where leadership inside locker rooms matters. There's a difference between physical and petty. There's a difference between sending a message and taking away someone's season. The line is thin. The best pros know how to live on the right side of it. If the culture slips, you start getting hockey fights with basketballs. Nobody wants that. There's a hard conversation about race in all of this. We can't duck it. A lot of black women carried this league when it wasn't cool to care. They sold the game with no promises on the other side. So when a white rookie rockets past them in visibility, endorsements, and headlines, you have two truths in conflict. She earned attention with her performance and personality, and they earned attention they didn't get. That tension doesn't make one side evil and one side pure. It makes the league responsible. Responsible to speak carefully. Responsible to spread the shine. Responsible to make sure that frustration never turns into make her feel it body checks that get excused as playoff physicality in June. Some people pulled the conversation into law, not because they want to sue, but because that's the language that finally makes institutions listen. Hostile environment, pattern of negligence, unequal treatment. Whether or not any of that gets proven, that vocabulary changed the stakes. It put pressure on offices, not just whistles. It made the league answer questions it could ignore when this was just Twitter drama. It turned a basketball problem into a business problem. Business problems get solved, or they blow up brands. This is where fans come in. Fans are not powerless. When people spoke with their remotes, clicking away when the star isn't there, the message was loud. When they spoke with wallets, buying tickets when she's on the schedule, the message was louder. If you want a better product, reward the nights when the game is clean and the calls are consistent. If you want cheap shots to stop, hold the worst ones accountable the same way you'd hold a late hit in football. That's how cultures move. The audience refuses to clap for bad acts. Let's talk about the rigged word floating around. Is the league rigged? That's a huge claim. Most of the time, no. Most of the time, it's officials trying to keep pace with a fast game and missing stuff like humans miss stuff. But if the trend line keeps pointing toward one player absorbing outsized punishment, people will use words like rigged, even if it's not a plot. That's how distress sounds. It's the league's job to make sure that word dies because the product proves it wrong. Not with a press release. With whistles. With suspensions when they're warranted. With the same energy no matter who's on the receiving end. There's also a coaching angle folks don't talk about enough. Some defenses are being built to wear her down. Not illegal by itself. But when a blueprint quietly includes foul smart and the whistles don't stack up, the strategy turns into a loophole. The league can close that loophole in a single memo. Points of emphasis, freedom of movement on shooters, verticality on contests, automatic flags for reckless contact in the air. The message doesn't have to be shouted. It just has to be clear enough that every defender knows the cost of crossing the line is higher than the benefit. What about Caitlyn's mindset? If you watch closely, she's adjusted. Less complaining to refs. More pace changes. More decoy action to buy space. She started using her range not just to score, but to stretch defenders so far they can't body her without exposing the rim. That's a veteran trick in a rookie's hands. She learned to take the three they're pretending to give her, and then punish the next switch when they panic. You can try to bully a player like that, but once she figures out the geometry, bullying turns into chasing. Her teammates evolved too. Early on, you could feel them waiting to see how the league would treat her. Now, you see them carving open lanes, flipping screens at the last second, setting ghosts to drag the extra defender out of the hit zone. You see them sprint to her when a cheap shot lands, not to start something, but to show unity the refs can't ignore. That's what good teams do when the whistle is shaky. They leave no doubt about numbers, angles, and help. And the veterans on other teams? The best ones are starting to talk about balance. They don't want a soft league. They want a fair one. You can be physical. You can be proud. You can even circle a date on the calendar and decide, we're sending a message tonight. But the real message, the one kids will copy at home, should be this. You can play hard without trying to hurt somebody. If you have to go through someone's body to slow them down, you already lost the possession. Beat her with timing. Beat her with discipline. Beat her with a hand in the pocket that never slides into the ribs. If you're the league office, you have two choices. Pretend this will fade when the news cycle moves on, or fix it in ways fans can see. You don't need a giant scandal to change course. You need a consistent standard. You need to communicate it to teams and officials, and then stick to it in July the same way you stuck to it in May. When the product looks fair, people forgive the misses. When the product looks tilted, every miss becomes proof of a conspiracy. You choose which world you want to live in. And if you're Caitlyn, you keep doing what made you a problem in the first place. Space the floor with your range. Make the pass that puts a defender on an island. Sprint back after a hit and bury the next three. You'll never win the debate in a press conference. You win it by making the cheap shots look desperate. The best revenge in sports is boring. Win, walk out, repeat. Fans remember that longer than a post-game quote. So, where does this go from here? Back to the court. Back to the basics. The next time she plays, all the ghosts of this season will be sitting in the first row. If the game is clean, the story changes. If the hits start up again and the whistles don't, the story hardens. That's the reality. The league can't control the internet. It can control its own standard. Players can't control who the camera loves. They can control their own choices in the lane. Fans can't control the schedule. They can control what they watch and what they reward. Here's the bottom line. The WNBA got what it always wanted, a star who makes casual fans care. Now it has to prove it knows what to do with one. Protecting a star doesn't mean giving her special treatment. It means giving her the same treatment your rulebook promises everybody. If that happens, the game wins. If it doesn't, this conversation will outlast every hot streak and every highlight. Because people can forgive missed shots. They can't forgive the feeling that the deck is stacked. Caitlin Clark didn't invent physical basketball. She walked into it and exposed the parts that weren't working. Maybe that's the real story here. One player forced a league to look in the mirror. Not because she complained the loudest, but because the whole world was watching when she got hit. If that pressure makes the game better, everybody wins. Rookies, vets, refs, coaches, fans. If it doesn't, we're right back where we started, asking the same simple question that started all this. Why wasn't the whistle there when it mattered? Until the answer changes, the debate won't. And the cameras will keep coming back to the same scene. A young star at the top of the key, The crowd leaning forward, a defender inching close, and a split second where the league chooses what it wants to be. Clean or dirty, fair or tilted, growth or grudge. That's bigger than one rookie. That's the DNA of a sport. And everyone, from the person in the nosebleeds to the person with the whistle, will help write what comes next.